that there are two forms of wrestling rings that you lose all the time. The pig wins in a wrestling ring. You need to stay out of it. There's a physical wrestling ring and the emotional wrestling ring. The physical wrestling ring is where the fight actually takes place. It's usually hosted, although you don't know it, and chosen by the pathological narcissist. It's where they have home field advantage. The PNARC is familiar with every square inch of the wrestling ring. That's where they hone their skills. They have been in that wrestling ring ever since they were a child. That's where they learned how to survive. And I'll tell you something. I'm not a fighter, but let's say I was, and let's say I was a judo guy. I wouldn't want to fight a boxer because I am where they feel comfortable. The emotional ring, that's in your head. That is where the fight occurs within the SLD. It's the venue in which inner voices or dialogue reside. It's the fight which the SLD always loses. This is where the gaslighting, all of the narcissistic victim syndrome has weakened you, and your life of being an SLD, where you start to believe that you're not smart enough, you're going to lose, that you never can overcome this. And when the narcissist can get you into that ring, get you to believe that you are powerless, that is far more dangerous than the physical ring when you actually are trying to fight. Because that ring is instilled in your head and goes all the way back to your own childhood. It's thoughts, feelings, suppositions, predictions, and judgments about yourself that are often negative and pessimistic. It overwhelms the SLD before, during, and after the fight. So the narcissist will win if you enter their physical winning. So if I have a neighbor who is a narcissist and I want to ask him to not throw garbage on my front lawn. If I politely ask him and he starts getting in my face, the wrestling ring is to stay there and to yell back. That's what he does. I will lose. I will absolutely lose. So I recognize I have to get out of that spot. The emotional wrestling ring is if I think he's going to beat me up, I should just shut up and I should never complain again. Now I am going to lose because it doesn't matter where I go, he's still in my head and I feel like that's not going to work. The emotional wrestling ring is harder to solve because this, as you know, is deeper and more pervasive. I love Muhammad Ali and I grew up with the champ, and I never thought of him as a narcissist until recently. And I still love him. Muhammad Ali used his emotional manipulation tactics to beat other people. Muhammad Ali mastered the emotional wrestling ring, EWR, and the physical wrestling ring. The physical wrestling ring was, sting like a butterfly, float like a bee, the champ, one of the best ever. The emotional wrestling ring was getting in their heads. When he was in his early 30s, when he won his belt back the second and the third time, he often fought people that were younger than him, who were more skilled than him, who were faster than him, and physically stronger than him. He didn't win by having better skills. He won by turning his adversaries against themselves. And he also was a really good boxer. Don't get me wrong, especially towards in the middle part of his career. He taunted them, he ridiculed them, he embarrassed them. He created vindictive rage and an all-out intention to pulverize him.
I had to trick him into this fight. I had to make the world think my legs were gone. Then they signed. They said, well, if he was not Ali that fought Liston, he'd beat him, jab him silly and dance all night. But he can't dance no more. Previous fight show where he stands in the corner. I did that on purpose, man.
day that Joe Foreman died, Joe Foreman seethed with rage and anger. He hated Ali. And Ali knew that if he can get under the skin of his adversaries, he would have a better opportunity to win a fight. He created these boxing techniques that were meant to encourage a person to beat the hell out of him while he would just hunker down. They called that the RopeaDope.
George Foreman continues to stalk Ali, tries to get through with a straight left jab, an improved left jab. There's a vicious, awkward, but very powerful. Looking for the opportunity, looks set on the rubbery side. Maybe 3 good punches. That punch taken on the glove, that one slips by the left. Right hand by Foreman was not effective to let the man punch himself out. 30 seconds left in round 8. Very even fight. Ali, a sneaky right hand. Another sneaky right hand. This time he works over the shoulder of Foreman. It's a combination.
He knew how to get someone mad enough to tire them out. Tired, if he could get his opponent tired and confused, he would win the match. I still think Ali's one of the best fighters ever. But if you look at him in the lens that I'm suggesting, you see a different person. Most of our celebrities are on the narcissistic side. A lot of our presidents are on the narcissistic side. But the point about Ali was he knew how to get under people's skin. And if we understand how Ali did it, and then we might understand how the pathological narcissist has control over us. When we react to be angry, the false power. It could also be fear and anxiety. It could be part of our post-traumatic stress disorder, where we can go into this fear and have flashbacks how we've never ever been able to survive when we stand up for ourselves. The induced conversation. I actually have a fun time creating explanations and titles for things, and this is one that I created. When you are setting boundaries with a pathological narcissist, you've done the predictive awareness. You know what they can do and how strong they are once they get you in a wrestling ring. And you are trying to detach, trying to stay disconnected from the fight, trying to stay out of the physical wrestling ring and the emotional wrestling ring. The power they have is getting you to talk. I'm not saying getting you into fight, getting you to argue, connecting you with the false power, but if you have done a really good job and detached, the weakness is the conversation, the induced conversation. It is the deadliest of the PNARC's wrestling moves. Calculated attempts to engage a person in a conversation for the sole purpose of manipulation, control, and domination. How many of us have experienced, professionally and personally, where they just said, please, just talk to me one more time, one more text message? You saw when they can get you to talk, they are exploiting the SLD's reflexive predisposition to defend themselves while being drawn in an argument or power and control struggle. And of course, we can explain it by the roller coaster amnesia and magical thinking. The content of the conversations are irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. When you are starting to set boundaries and starting to catch them and starting to understand their power and control strategies, and they can feel it, they know that all they need to do is get you into the wrestling ring one way or the other, the physical or the emotional wrestling ring. But observe, don't absorb technique can neutralize it. The observe, don't absorb technique rests on the presumption that pathological narcissists thrive on power and control dynamics, overt and covert manipulation. See, this is more of a summary now. They draw the victim into the emotional conflict or the drama, And once in the wrestling ring, they have home field advantage. P-narcs are impossible adversaries for codependents. Just remember, it takes two people, the sound of a clapping hand takes two hands. And the pathological narcissists only have control when their narcissistic needs are met, their narcissistic supply is being filled, and they have someone to fight that they always know they can win. If there's no opponent, there's no fight. Observing is healthy disassociation. Now, let me be clear, because I'm in a room filled with therapists. Dissociation disorder, dissociation is not a positive psychological condition. It is often, in fact, there are disorders that connect deeply to one form of dissociation or not. What I'm talking about is purposeful and planful disassociation, not the type that renders someone psychologically unhealthy and unsafe. It enables, so to observe is to be able to watch what is happening in real time and not be triggered emotionally. You are not being triggered and you are not going back to insecurities and fears and anxieties. You are not flashing back to your childhood and being afraid that someone's not going to leave you, someone's not going to love you. You are in the present moment. You are completely grounded in the present moment, and you are purposefully watching, observing what is happening. People who are familiar with mindfulness know the power of just observing what is going on around you without judgment. And when you can disconnect from your emotional response and just watch the P-narc behave as a P-narc, because we've done all this work right now. We've explained what a P-narc is. We've talked about all the different variations. We've talked about narcissistic victim syndrome. We've talked about this and that. We know what they do. We know how they do it. And if you're in good therapy or you have really great resources around you, you can calculate everything they do ahead of time. They are not complicated. They are predictable. They only confuse the people who are codependent, who keep believing that they really are someone else that they're not. Watching with emotional detachment as a scheming P-narc tries to draw you into the wrestling ring without a compulsion to engage or fight back. That's the power. That's the power. You can defend yourself by not reacting. So observing is deciding not to react to provocation. There's a decision. There is an understanding. There is a form of psychological health that's being practiced. Now, I don't have time, nor is this a part of this training, but in my 9 stages of the codependency cure, when I introduce the observe, don't absorb technique, it comes in the beginning when they start to set boundaries. And as they get healthier, they learn more and more, and the observe, don't absorb technique becomes one of these defense strategies that gets more and more powerful as you recover more and more. Yes, you can be someone who is not in codependency recovery and use the observe, don't absorb technique well and can be effective. But I promise you, the real power of ODA comes in when you are psychologically healthy enough in your recovery to understand the powerlessness that you've always had in fighting the unfightable fight.